Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and are you ready to go back to 2023's critical darling Redfall, the lowest rated Xbox game in years? I sure am. So when I reviewed the game at the time the embargo lifted, I said that Redfall was Arcane's Fallout 76 moment, a inflection point for their team, as I thought they were gradually on that downward trajectory, and this marked their lowest point as a company, as a developer, and that they needed to bounce back moving forward from here. Now, I've also said multiple times on Defining Duke that as much as I would love to see a big comeback story for Redfall, just nothing within this game matches the DNA of Arcane, and they lost too much of the talent that made Arcane through making this game, and that it was best just to move on to the next project as soon as possible. And as we waited longer and longer for this massive update to hit Redfall that would deliver some promised features that were absent at launch, I was starting to feel more and more confident that, the team had just really moved on as soon as possible, which was, right after the game launched. So now, fast forward to today, and Redfall is here with its biggest update yet. Now, we did give the game a second chance around June-ish, July-ish, where we did talk about the big hot fixes that were coming to the game, and we played it in real time, and I showcased a lot of the game's still current issues. But in the spirit of fairness and open-mindedness, there is a massive update out for the game now that adds performance mode to the Xbox Series X and S consoles. It adds the ability to do melee takedowns. It apparently adds more encounters to the map. So the question is Redfall worth at least a download on Game Pass now? Is it worth playing? If you look at the Steam player count, not a lot of people are hopping in because no one wanted to spend money on this game. And if you look at the most played games on Xbox right now, you'll see a lot of first-party titles from Starfield to Sea of Thieves to Halo Infinite. You'll see day one Game Pass games like Lies of P, Warhammer 40k Darktide. All of these are making the cut, but there is no Redfall in here. So a lot of people, are they sleeping on it? Is it good? Is it bad? I dove in for you to find out. And yeah, let's talk. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into Bethesda content, you're in the right place. Please consider subscribing. Let's start off with the general experience when I open the game up. So I'm playing on my already New Game Plus file with Eclipse difficulty. For those who don't know, Eclipse difficulty unlocks after you beat the game once. So this is the hardest difficulty. That'll be important later when I talk about AI and whatnot. But the first thing I wanted to test, like I think many others, is, okay, are there, enemies to encounter in the world? If you watched the video where I gave the game a second chance, I ran from one end of the map to the other, and very infrequently were there encounters. You could, if you really wanted to, go from point A to point Z and not see a single soul in Redfall, which is really bad for a co-op shooter game. That's kind of the whole heartbeat of the game, is to fight and kill vampires. So that was the first thing I wanted to test. Did they at least populate the world with encounters? And I can say, yes, absolutely they did. So at first, when you exit the fire station, little nerve-wracking, encounters in the same spots, didn't really notice much of a difference. But as I got deeper and deeper into the map, I noticed there were little skirmishes, little pockets everywhere in between. And this is to the better of the game, because while I don't think Redfall is a good feeling shooter at all, at least this distracts you from a myriad of issues the game still has and can keep you in some sort of gameplay flow. That's part of the problem with Redfall, is there was just nothing engaging you. And I don't still find it a particularly engaging game at all, but at least you get to play the game. You're not just running around. And in a co-op game, I think this is especially important. Now, with that in mind, the other thing I had to check out were stealth takedowns. One of the first things I called out in my Redfall review before the game launched was the absence of melee takedowns. To me, this was downright disgusting. And I don't mean to just kick a game while it's down again and again and again, but I can't believe this was just not priority one. Hey, we have stealth components. We should have stealth takedowns. We're Arcane. We're the stealth team. I don't know if this was an oversight, some sort of technical complication, because game development's weird. I don't know. But the fact that it wasn't there and it wasn't figured out until now, to me, is all you really need to know to stay away from the game. The fact that it called itself a stealth game and there wasn't a stealth takedown. So what happens now is, if you have a weapon with a stake on it, which many weapons do have it, you can slay an enemy, which is just a simple stab takedown from the back. It's no Dishonored where you hook right under their neck and stab them or choke them out. You can see the animations on their face and struggle, and it feels pretty advanced for its time. You don't get that here, and I'm, again, fine with that because it's a co-op game, it's an open world game, there's a lot more happening underneath the hood here, so I'm not expecting complete complexity here, but yeah, it's just a simple stab takedown, but it's there. That's all I really ask for. But if you don't have a stake on the weapon, what's kind of weird is there isn't an answer to that. You still elbow him right in the booty, and the fact that there wasn't an answer for that, I don't know what to say. That you can only do stealth takedowns with your stakes. Why wasn't there just a hand stake weapon that we could just use for the melee takedowns is beyond me. I don't know if I sound like I'm nitpicking right now, but again, it just feels like it's speaking to the essence of this game, which is the bare minimum. Now, when I went on Twitter and saw this update was out, I gotta be honest with the Xbox community. I saw a lot of people saying, oh, this is it. This is a great update. It's a good time. It's a good play. And that piqued my interest. I went, okay, let me download this. If people are saying it's a good time, because I thought Redfall was pretty terrible, but also I played it before launch without any updates. All right, let's see what that's all about. And I need to be very clear and upfront with the Xbox fan. Y'all need to stop reaching hard for W's. You got one with Starfield. Starfield is a massive W. Relish in that, okay? But when it comes to Redfall, this is where I'm seeing the reaching right now, because this game is not, in my opinion, on the track to a redemption arc. Because unless they do, I'm talking a complete and total overhaul to the point of making a brand new game, which anything's possible in the modern age of gaming. I mentioned in a previous Cyberpunk video that even a game like Redfall technically isn't out of it, but I don't know if you look at the player counts, if it's worth the assets and the time and the money spent to go out and fix Redfall. Pete Hines has claimed that this game will be played for 10 years. I don't know if he's just trying to be kind to his fellow teammates, but when you look at the player count, there's just no business sense in keeping this team on this game. But to my original point is the Xbox fans reaching for the W. This game is still totally broken and rotten to the core, and I'm gonna have to run back some talking points from my review to hammer that home. Remember, one thing I talked about in my Deathloop review was the AI was awful. It was dumb, and in the first patch that came out after Deathloop, despite journalists saying that was part of the intent of the experience, yeah, the first update for Deathloop included fixes to the AI, to NPC pathing, all that fun stuff that, you know, makes stealth better. But point being is those problems carried right into Redfall. So one of the things that I was really looking out for in Redfall wasn't more enemy encounters, it was more intelligent AI. And wouldn't you know it, the first encounter I had, the AI T-posed and then just backstepped on me. There was one point where I was hiding behind a telephone post, and even though I was in plain sight, enemies couldn't see me. I have a theory on this, and this is gonna get a little game dev speaky, but I just wanna explain what I think we're seeing here, because this also happened in a separate time during my second chance video. There was this one point that I was hiding behind a fence, but the fence had spaces in it and the enemy was clearly looking at me. And at first I was like, why can't they see me? But I think the idea and the way Redfall was built was anything with blocking volumes, collision detection, pretty much if you were to walk into something, it stops you, right? The idea I'm seeing here is if something has collision, then it can likely obscure you from view. So even though I'm sitting here behind this lamppost, clear as day, there's two guards walking up to me at one point, they still can't see me. I think it's because of that. It's those little bits of design that can lead to a stealth experience crumbling. It breaks my immersion when I'm sitting out in broad daylight underneath the light and they can't see me and they go, we'll find you. You better watch out. We'll find you. Like, listen to the NPC dialogue run on while this is happening was hilarious. And to me, with so many games nowadays, just looking at reviews, AI is one of the most overlooked components in gaming. It's what makes the experience click, and it's this finely tuned aspect that can make or break things. And in Redfall, it goes all the way to the end where it breaks it. I think if Redfall had at least competent AI, you could have something here. I will note that I think the vampire AI has improved. There was a long stretch of time since the game's launch where it would just sort of float in place and look at you and teleport all over, and it would look cool, but they were never a real threat. But I actually died, and granted I'm playing on the max difficulty available in the game, but it was nice to actually have the vampires be a threat, have a lot more health, and completely on the offensive here. That's the type of stuff that gets you moving, using your abilities, pulling your ultimates. But that goes back to what I said about the core of the game being rotten and why I'm telling some Xbox fans to just not reach for every W out there, because when it comes to the core of the game, it still doesn't change the fact that whether you're playing solo or with friends, that they took the Corvo move set or the Prey gadget set and broke it amongst 4 characters instead of making them feel fully fleshed out. So you feel like you just have one slice of pizza out of the entire pie. And that leads to, I think, an incomplete experience. There are things I still like about Redfall. Like, for example, I know it's very Fallout 4-ish, but I love how they make use of the items and the clutter you find in the environment, where when you pick it up, it turns into supplies. You can find weapons and salvage them right there before even looting them, so it keeps a good gameplay flow. Like, there are ideas there, while very minuscule ones, that could work in other titles that involve shooting and looting, especially that salvaging when you're looking inside a weapon box or whatever. So it makes, again, the loot flow better, so I'm not pausing and stopping the experience, I'm just going to the next area. There's still, unfortunately, no quest markers, so you still have to open the map, ping the area you want to go to, which has a quest marker on the map, but it doesn't show up on your map bar. Really weird stuff like this that's just been completely overlooked. This is why I'm saying that there's so many little problems that now some of them have been fixed here. But there are a myriad of other little problems here in Redfall that demand attention before you even get to the mountainous stuff, like storytelling. Redfall, I know people are going to say, I'm not here for a good story, but Arcane are great storytellers. When you look at Prey, even though I wasn't crazy about the ending, when you look at Moon Crash, oh my god. When you look at Dishonored 1 and 2, Death of the Outsider especially is a phenomenal finishing act to that wonderful trilogy of games, which I hope actually gets a legit third entry like it's rumored to get. When you look at that, they're good storytellers. So to get this literal Fallout 76 style story where you just stand there and watch silhouettes in place and there's no cutscenes and they're just slideshows, Redfall is still not great. And I don't think everyone's trying to sell it like it's an amazing game, but I definitely see people trying to sell it like it's fixed and there's no problems with it. And that's where I have to be that guy and kind of come in and say, look, I appreciate the optimism. If it looks cool to you, I'm not going to sit here and tell you don't give it a shot, but I'm going to warn you at least, don't let the Twitter streets start to sway you into the idea that this is going to be a brilliant experience for you. And especially when it comes to co-op, and I need to fully disclose, I did do an ad for this game, but I'm saying this as just a legit talking point. When you get a fun co-op game like Warhammer 40k Darktide in Game Pass that works as intended now, and then you get a broken co-op game like Redfall, I mean, there's just other good co-op games available on Xbox for you without any additional charge. So I just think right now in such a competitive time where there's so many games coming out, we have Spider-Man coming up, even if you're not in the PlayStation ecosystem, you have wonderful games I've been playing. You can see the Asus ROG Ally behind me. I've been playing Lies of P on that through Game Pass. It's just, there's amazing games like that. Payday 3 is fixed. There's another co-op experience that works great. To me, it just right now in the year of 2023, we don't have time for this type of stuff. Like, you gotta be on your A game when you come out nowadays. That's how it's become, that's how it is, and I appreciate the comeback story of something like Cyberpunk, but that's a rare example, right? To me, that's a rare example. And I admire Arcane for hanging with this and getting this update out, but I hope this kind of marks the end. Like, okay, job's done, deliver the extra characters, there will be a couple of updates with it, but to me, I hope that most of their team is working on whatever's next for them, because they need to start recruiting the talent that made Arcane, because this is not their future. And with a sub 50 player count on Steam, I don't know who we're really supporting with this, who wants to spend their money on it. You might get a Game Pass sub or two out of it just to kind of try it out. And if they hang with this for years, kudos to Bethesda, because they've done it twice between 76 and Redfall. But when you look at now with Microsoft in the back pocket and with Starfield out in the mix, it signals to me that there's like this stabilizing force within Bethesda now, and we don't have to go chase the live service crap that practically killed all our teams, from Machine Games to Arcane to Bethesda Game Studios, and we can just go ahead and do our traditional single player stuff that made Bethesda such a loved company. So yeah, not to just dog on Redfall for an entire video again, the update does bring some much needed changes, but it's still not a good game. Like, it's still a very bad game. It's still one of the worst games of the year. It just works a little bit more as intended. It's a little less buggy, but the AI is still broken to the point where, like, I don't know why anyone would want to spend their time on this. So I just wanted to go ahead and deliver my thoughts on the new update so you didn't have to go and install it or hopefully not purchase it. Yeah, it's definitely better. There's definitely good changes there, but it's definitely not something that you're going to want to spend money on or time on, in my opinion, still. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and fire away down below. Have you tried out the Redfall update? Let me know what you're thinking. Other than that, be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the heck out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.